Isn't Christmas a magical time? Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Luisa. I'm so glad you could join me today. We're going to learn how to make that beautiful snowflake ornament that you saw in the intro, and I'm going to be using the beads from the GGC's Treasure Box Nature's Bounty, which was released a couple of months ago. It's put together by Gina from GGC's Beginning Beaded. She also has a channel called Gina's Gems Creations. And if you haven't been to any of those two channels, which I doubt, because I think pretty much everybody in the beading industry knows who she is, I strongly suggest that you go visit her channel, subscribe, because that's the only way you're going to get notifications every time she releases videos. So anyway, when I received the Nature's Bounty box, I was so impressed by it. I did make a couple of pieces using the beads from that box, and I'll link those down below if you haven't seen those videos. And if you're wondering if that box is still available, unfortunately it isn't. It sold out almost immediately after it was launched. But I still have some beads from that box, and I wanted to use some of them to make that gorgeous snowflake ornament. And it's the perfect gift for a friend or a family, or even for yourself. And it doesn't necessarily have to go on a tree. It can be a sun catcher on your window. It can just hang from the ceiling or from a ceiling fan. It can hang from the rear view mirror of your car around the holidays. It's a beautiful holiday ornament, and the snowflake symbolizes a lot of things, okay? For me, it symbolizes the beginning of winter. It symbolizes winter holidays, Christmas, New Year's. But in some cultures, it actually symbolizes other things. It symbolizes individuality, and it can also symbolize change, transformation, and new beginnings. But my favorite one is definitely that it symbolizes individuality, because, you know, they say that there are no two crystals that are formed alike. I don't know how true it is, but that's what they say. So anyway, guys, if you're struggling to find a gift for somebody, you can't go wrong with this kind of gift. And we're going to learn how to make it with the beads that I have from the Nature's Bounty box. Now, if you don't have that box or you used up the beads, you can still make this project. It's very easy to adapt to it using all kinds of beads. And I will show you how to do that when we get into the tutorial. All you have to do is make the beads fit no matter what size, what shape. And the snowflake has 6 spikes. So as long as it fits within those 6 spikes, you're good to go. I think they're called spikes. Maybe they're called branches. Needles, I'm not sure. I think you can call them spokes, like the spokes on a wheel, because the actual form of the snowflake kind of looks like that. But anyway, guys, that's enough talking. I want to get right into the tutorial. So let's go ahead, turn the camera around, and we'll get started. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pick the beads. Like I said before, we're going to use GGC's Treasure Box, Nature's Bounty. We're going to be using some of these gorgeous imitation jade oval beads. These are 9 by 6 millimeters in size, and the color is smoke white. And we're going to use about 24 of them. And like I said, if you don't have these beads, just go ahead and pick a bead that's very similar in shape and size, and you should be fine. I think that's 24. Let me put them off to the side. We're going to be using 6 of these gorgeous rosy brown colored crystals. And they're absolutely gorgeous. They have a very unique faceting. They're 8 by 7 millimeters in dimension, and Gina called these twisted rosy brown crystals. So there's 6. We're going to be using 12 of these large 8 by 10 millimeter rondelles. And the color is half silver smoke. I love these. These are so pretty. There's my 12. We're going to be using 6 of these gorgeous blue electroplated oval barrel beads. And when I first saw these, I knew I had to use them somehow. Look at the beautiful sparkle on these beads, guys. These are 8 by 18 millimeters in size. So they're pretty large, and they're going to look gorgeous on the snowflake ornament. There's my 6. We're going to be using 6 of these tiny rondelles, and these are called electroplated half blue imitation jade rondelle beads. They're 5 by 4 millimeters in size. And as you can see, they're a very beautiful pale shade of grayish blue. So they're in my 6. We're going to be using a bunch of these electroplated platinum colored crystal beads. They're 4 millimeters in size. Now we're going to be using quite a few of these. I believe it's going to be around 60. So I'm just going to leave them on the strand for now. I'm also going to use some of these gorgeous cuboid beads. The color is dark topaz. And these are very small, as you can see. They're 4 by 4 by 4 millimeters in size. And we're only going to use 6 of them. So let me go ahead and pull out 6. We're also going to be using some of these bugle beads. These are a very light gold color, as you can see. And they're 3 millimeters in size. And we're also going to be using some seed beads. These are size 8/0, and these are also in the gold color, as you can see. And these are actually Miyuki, but if you have Toho beads, that would be fine as well. And we're also going to be using some size 11/0 seed beads, and these are also the same gold color as the 8/0s, and these are also Miyukis, as you can see. You're going to need some wire, okay? This is 26 gauge wire, and this is artistic wire, and the color is gold. And I'm going to be using this wire to wrap the beads. I don't recommend that you use anything thicker than 26 gauge because these beads are kind of small, and some of them may break if you use wire that's too thick. We're also going to use some 18 gauge wire. This is also a gold color, as you can see, and this is also artistic wire, the same brand as the other one, but if you have other brands, that's fine too. All right, we're going to start by cutting ourselves 3 pieces of wire, and this will be the 18 gauge wire. Each piece will be about 7 inches long. I recommend that you straighten it out before you cut it from the spool. It's just a little bit easier that way. And I'm recommending 7 inches based on the beads that I have, but if your beads are smaller, obviously you'll need less wire. So here are my 3 pieces of wire. Now another option, if you didn't want to do it this way, is to use some forms, okay? You can get these forms on Amazon. They're already soldered in the middle, so you don't have to worry about that part, okay? The only thing is that you're restricted by size. I think these are the smaller ones. Each one of these pieces is about 4 inches long, but by the time you do the loop and everything, your snowflake will end up being a lot smaller. They do sell them larger though, but I tell you what, they're very, very pricey. So I think it's better to just make your own. And it's a little tricky, okay, guys? It's not easy to get started, I'll be honest with you, okay? So if you're a beginner, you might find it a little bit frustrating initially, but we're going to do it the easy way today. I'm going to connect these 3 pieces by using a very easy method, all right? So let's go ahead and begin. We're going to cut ourselves a piece of 26 gauge wire that's about 36 inches long. You don't want a piece that's too long because then it becomes unmanageable. And if you're a beginner, anything bigger than 36 inches will be very, very frustrating for you. Okay, I'm just giving you a warning. It's almost better to cut yourself shorter pieces and add wire than it is to try to struggle with a huge piece of wire. So here it is. As you can see, it's pretty long. We're going to start by connecting 2 of the 3 pieces. So go ahead and put your 2 pieces of wire together like this and get your 26 gauge, put it on top, and go ahead and do a couple of wraps. Don't be scared to use tools to tighten your wraps. And now you're going to bring your wraps to the center of your wire, just like this. Now you're going to grab one of the pieces and rotate it just a little bit until you get like a 60-degree angle, okay? Something like this. Get your other wire, put it on top. So this is what you should have. Now this part's a little bit fiddly, guys, okay? It's going to be difficult to keep them in this position for the next couple of minutes, okay? While you anchor them down. So don't panic if your wires start moving out of place. But you're going to go ahead and take your 26 gauge and you're going to go across again. Separate your wires again, put them into position, and you're going to go around each little wedge, okay, or each spike. Just like this. Try to keep it nice and tight. And if you go across each section more than once, that's okay. Don't worry about it. It's not important, and I'll show you why in just a little bit. You might want to move your wires as you do this, okay? Try to maintain that 60-degree angle. And as you can see, I'm doing like a little weave in the middle. I'm forming a bead in the middle, basically made out of wrapped wire. You may have seen some people doing weaving in and out of the wires like a spider web. I don't like that look for snowflake ornaments. I prefer this method, and it's a little bit easier and it doesn't look so Halloweenish. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this little piece right here. We don't need it, so go ahead and snip it off. And if you see anything sticking out, definitely squish it down. Move your wires so that they're centered, okay? And make sure you have a 60-degree angle in each section, okay? And if you're really picky, you may be tempted to take out your protractor or compass, but you really don't need to. What I do is I get on my phone and I search for a downloadable image of angles, and I shoot it off to my Wi-Fi printer and print it off. Let me show you. Here's one that I printed just a few minutes ago. And just go ahead and place your form on top. Make sure that the angles match. And I'm going to be using this guide a couple of times as I complete the wrapping in the center, okay? Here are some 11-0 seed beads. One of the things you may run into are little kinks. You want to avoid any kinks in your wire. If you see one forming, get rid of it right away, okay? Because it'll just make your life miserable. And now I'm going to thread on about 3 11-0 seed beads, like this. Bring it down. And as you can see, I have my 11-0s down by the wrapping, and I'm just going to continue to wrap with those seed beads in place. And again, grab another 3. And bring them down and wrap them around the center. Arrange them in the middle and then go ahead and wrap. Let me put another set on this side. So again, I'm loading 3. Bring them down. Arrange them on top like this. And do my wrapping. So this is what you should have. Okay, now I'm going to go to the back. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to load 3 11-0 seed beads. Bring them down to where the wraps are, like this, and take my wire around. And if they move around, that's okay. Don't worry too much, okay? You want it to be kind of random in the middle. So again, I'm going to load 3. Bring the seed beads down, like this. Move them around a little bit. And wrap them around. I need to fill that space in now with some seed beads, so again I'm going to load 3. Bring them down. Arrange them on top like this. Okay, can you guys see that? I hope so. And then go ahead and anchor them in place. And you can put as many of these seed beads in the middle as you want, okay? There's no rule, okay? It's completely up to you. If you want it completely full of seed beads, you certainly can do that. I think I'm going to do one more set. Arrange them on top and then do my wrapping. Now at this point you can still slide your wires in and out, okay, but they're pretty secure. So now what you're going to do is anchor your wire in place. So go ahead and pick one of the spokes that's nearest your wire and do a couple of wraps. You don't need too many, just a couple. So this is what you should have, okay? And once again, you want to make sure you have the 60-degree angle. Get your guide. That's close enough. I'm going to come in here now with my pliers and very carefully tighten up these wraps. You do want to be careful because if you press too hard, you could crush your beads. And I'm also going to come in here and give it a little twist. So wherever you see wire, grab it with your pliers and give it a little twist, and that tightens everything up a little bit more. And the more twisting you do, the tighter it'll get, and you'll notice it because it makes it to where these pieces of wire will not move hardly anything at all. And you definitely want to get into the sides as well. Basically, wherever you see a piece of wire that looks kind of straight, get in there and give it a little kink, and I promise you it'll tighten everything in place. Now you do want to make sure that each one of these pieces of wire is as straight as you can get it, okay, and be careful because they do slide and they'll continue to slide until you load them with beads and finish off the ends. Now if you notice one of your angles is off, you can always come in here with pliers and squeeze it, and that'll separate them a little bit more, okay. And it is a good idea to tighten everything down anyways in the corners, just like this with your pliers gently. So that looks pretty good, as you can see, okay. It looks like a very interesting beaded bead in the middle, and I think it's really cute, and it's a very easy way to connect your wires. So the first thing we're going to load are these oval beads, and as you can see I have my wire wrapped around this piece of wire here, or this spoke. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up one of these beads now with my 26 gauge, bring it down, and I'm going to load it onto my wire just like this. As you can see, the 26 gauge wire is going right through the bead, okay? And that's exactly what you want. Now before we go any further, we're going to see if the next bead is going to fit here, okay? And the reason I'm showing this is because I know everybody's got different beads, but you want space in between them. You don't want them up against each other, okay? You want a little bit of space in between them. And mine look just fine. Let me move my 11-0s out of the way. And I'm going to drop some 8-0s here. And now we're going to load these pretty rosy brown crystals. So we're going to begin by loading an 8-0 seed bead, one of these crystals, another 8-0 seed bead, like this, bring it down, now these beads are going to go in between the spokes, but before you do anything else, you need to make sure that they fit in the space. Let's go ahead and load one of these oval beads, barrel beads, and see if it fits, and it looks like it fits. And if it doesn't fit for you because maybe you're using different beads, you can adjust it by adding some 11-0s or some other kind of bead, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and wrap around this spoke now. So this is what I have, okay? So once again, load an 8-0 seed bead, a crystal, another 8-0 seed bead, bring it down like this, take an oval bead, load it onto the spoke. I'm calling these spokes, okay, like the spokes on a bike, and then take your wire and wrap it around a couple of times. This is what we have so far, okay. So once again, load an 8-0 seed bead, a crystal, another 8-0 seed bead, and bring it down. Take a barrel bead, load it on, and do a couple of wraps. And this is what we have so far. Isn't that pretty? So I'm going to do the rest and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm back, and as you can see, I've loaded all of my crystals, and now we're going to go ahead and do the next set of beads. And I'm going to straighten this piece of wire because I'm going to be threading both the 26 gauge and this one through the next bead. So it needs to be perfectly straight, okay? And we're going to be using these large ones. So I'm going to thread it onto my 26 gauge wire like this, bring it down, and then thread the 18 gauge through the same bead. Okay, so I have two wires going through the same bead. Bring it down, just like that. And now we're going to go to the next spoke, okay? So now I'm going to thread on another bead onto this spoke. And now you're going to fill the space between this bead and this bead on this 26 gauge wire with the correct number of beads. And I think I'll use these beads now. Let me go ahead and pull out a few. And I can always get more if I need more. So I'm going to start by loading 3 of these crystals onto my 26 gauge wire. Bring them down. And what I'm looking for is the center point, but I'm off by just a little bit. And I think what I'll do is add an 11-0 seed bead first, and then my 3 crystals. and bring them down. And that looks a little bit better, and it looks like they sit up against this large crystal a little bit better as well. So once again, load 3 more. And 1 11/0 size seed bead. Bring it down, and as you can see, they fit pretty nicely across that space. So now I'm going to anchor them by doing a couple of wraps, just like that. Go to the next section, load an 11/0 and 6 of these crystals, and another 11/0. Bring it down, load a rondelle, a large rondelle, anchor them down, just like that. So I'm going to continue finishing these and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I haven't finished it yet, but I wanted to show you how to add more wire because as you can see, I'm running low. I'm going to do one more extra wrap here instead of 2, okay? And then I'm simply going to snip off the excess like that. Definitely squishing the little end. And you want to bring those wraps down so they're close up against each other. So let me go ahead and get more wire. I'm going to snip off another 36-inch piece. So I have my piece of wire now, and I'm not going to continue from this point where I left off because there are too many wraps there already. So I'm going to go to this one now, this spoke right here where there are no wraps. And I'm going to go ahead and do 3 wraps to anchor this wire down, okay? Like this. And I'm going to snip off the excess. Squash down the little end. And then bring your wraps down. And now I'm going to continue doing the same thing, loading 1 11/0 and 6 of these crystals. So let me go ahead and finish it and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm finishing the last one. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead and anchor it down. And this is what we have so far. Isn't that pretty? I would recommend that you adjust your 18 gauge wire if you need to, because they do slide around a little bit as you work with it, okay? And now we're going to be using these bugle beads. For this next round, we're going to be using these gorgeous faceted ovals, these blue ones. So let's go ahead and thread one onto the 26 gauge wire, bring it down. And now we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to thread this 18 gauge through the same bead. So we have 2 wires going through the same bead. And bring it down. Push it down so it's up against the wraps, just like that, okay? Unfortunately, there's nothing much you can do about those wraps. You need the wraps there to anchor everything in place, but you won't really notice it once everything's beaded up, okay? So now we have this wire coming out from the side there, as you can see, okay? And now we're going to do a pattern that's going to anchor in between these rondelles here. So we're going to start by loading an 8/0 seed bead, and then a bugle bead, and then one of these crystals and one of these white oval beads. Bring it down. And what you want to do now is you want to see exactly how much space you have, okay? And I'm doing this, guys, for those of you who don't have these beads, okay? Just to show you how easy it is to work with any kind of bead, really. So I think if I add another bugle bead and another one of these faceted crystals, it'll get me to the center of this piece here between these rondelles. So let's go ahead and try that. Let me load one of these crystals and another bugle bead. and bring it down. See if that fits, and it looks like it fits just right. Okay, and again, if it doesn't fit, you can adjust it by adding seed beads or changing up your beads. So now I'm going to anchor it between these rondelles here. So we have 6. I'm going to anchor it in the middle right there in between the 6. Okay, the easiest way to do it is to push the wire through like this and pull it through the back, just like that. Okay, and then do a wrap. So you're going to do that again, push it through and pull it through to the other end. So this is what you should have. Okay, I'm going to straighten it out a little bit. And now we're going to do another little structure in the middle, and we're going to start by loading an 8/0 seed bead, one of these jade rondelles, an 11/0 seed bead. Bring everything down like this. Put the whole thing down on your beading mat. Okay, this is the easiest way to do this. And you're going to kink your wire a little bit above the height of these. Okay, so I'm just kinking it with my nail. You can use pliers if you want to. So this is what you should have. Okay, I know it's a little bit strange, but you'll see what we're going to do with this later on. We're not going to do it right away. Okay, so now I'm going to thread my 26 gauge wire back through this rondelle, and that's the tricky part. So I'm going to ignore this 11/0 that we threaded, and I'm going to thread back through the rondelle like this and pull it through. And you really do need to be careful with kinks. Okay, it's so easy to kink this 26 gauge wire if you're not careful. So take your time, go really slow. You might want to lay it down, and now you're going to bring this 11/0 seed bead to where the kink is. Hold on to the bead and continue to pull your wire through that rondelle the best way you can without creating any additional kinks. Okay, it is going to bend a little bit like this, but don't worry, because this whole thing's going to be twisted up later on. Okay, bring your rondelle up all the way to the very tip like this, and take the rest of your 26 gauge wire, and you're going to thread it through that 8/0 seed bead. So once again, you want to be careful. Try not to kink your wire. And this is what you should have. Okay, there's my rondelle, and here's my 8/0. As you can see, the 26 gauge wire is threaded back through both of these beads. Okay, I hope that's clear enough. So now we're back here again. We're going to anchor it to the middle. So once again, you want to push it through and pull it through to the back and anchor it. Do a couple of wraps. And now we're going to do a few twists here to secure this part. So you want to separate your wires like this and do a couple of twists. Just like that. Okay, nothing difficult. And like I said, we're not going to finish this off just yet. We're going to finish the rest of the snowflake before we do this part. Okay, and now I'm going to repeat the same thing that I did on this side. So I'm going to load a bugle bead, one of these crystals, one of these oval beads, another crystal, another bugle bead, and an 8/0 seed bead, and bring it down just like that. Okay, it's the exact same pattern that I did on this side. Take one of these barrel beads, thread it on, make sure that it's up against this rondelle here, push it down, and now you're going to anchor it in place by doing a couple of wraps. So this is what you should have. Okay, very easy. So once again, we're going to thread on an 8/0 seed bead, a bugle bead, a crystal, one of these oval beads, another crystal, a bugle bead, bring it down. So now I'm going to anchor this wire in the middle right there. So once again, you want to push it through the space there and then pull it through the back. Like this, and do a wrap. So once again, push it through, pull it through. So now it's anchored, as you can see, and we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to load an 8/0 seed bead, a jade rondelle, and an 11/0 seed bead. Bring them down like this, and now I'm going to place my snowflake down, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to eyeball where I need to kink my wire, and I'm going to kink it a little bit above the height of these two spokes here, okay, just a little bit. Bring your 11/0 seed bead up to where the kink is. Now take the tail of your 26 gauge wire and thread it through the rondelle, and if you can thread it through the 8/0 in one shot, that's even better, okay, and then just pull it through very gently. I think it's easier if we put it down. Hold on to it and make sure that that wire is all the way through. And then bring your rondelle up. Just like that. Okay? So now we're going to anchor this end now to the same place in the middle there. And this is what you should have. Okay, very simple. So now I'm going to continue the same pattern, a bugle bead, a crystal, an oval, crystal, and another bugle bead, and an 8/0 seed bead. And I'm going to anchor it to this post here. Let me go ahead and get the beads. A bugle bead, a crystal, an oval, another crystal, another bugle bead, and an 8/0 seed bead. Okay, and now I'm going to thread on one of these. Make sure everything's snug, and then go ahead and anchor it to this spoke here. Just like that. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing the rest of this the exact same way, guys. So if you need to rewind in order to do it, please do so. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward. I don't want the video to be too long, but let me go ahead and finish it, and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm on my last set, as you can see, and now I just have to anchor this set to the top of this bead where I started. So once again, do a couple of wraps, and that's the end of this round. Isn't that gorgeous? And we're not even finished yet. Now before we go any further, we're going to get rid of this excess wire. There's not a whole lot left, but basically I'm just going to do another extra wrap here, okay, to secure it in place. Make sure my wraps are nice and tight. And I'm just going to go ahead and snip it off really close. And then I'm definitely going to tuck in the little tail. So this is what we have so far. Okay, we are going to take care of these in a few moments, not just yet, okay? What we're going to do now is finish these spokes, and as you can see, I've already loaded some beads here, okay? So as you can see, I have one of the white barrel beads first, and then a cuboid bead, and then the large rondelle at the end. But you can do it however you want, guys, okay? It's completely up to you how you want to finish it off. And I have a little bit of a tail left. Now before we kink it, we want to make sure the beads are nice and snug up against each other, okay? And then go ahead and kink it right there at the end. 90-degree angle, all right? I'm going to snip off the excess, leaving myself about 3/8 of an inch or maybe 1/2 inch. It's up to you how big you want your loops. And then I'm simply going to do a simple loop at the very end. Just like that, okay? So once again, thread on a barrel bead, a cuboid bead, a large rondelle. Bring the beads down so they're snug. And now you're going to kink your wire 90-degree angle right there. Snip off the excess. And now do a simple loop. Now you want to be careful when you finish each end because this wire is not secured and it will slide in and out of that little center bead, okay? But that's basically how I'm going to do all 6. So let me go ahead and finish the rest and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I've loaded all my beads. I've finished off all of the ends, as you can see. And each one of these ends has a little loop on it, which I don't mind. I think it looks okay. You could hang something off the loops if you wanted to. One of them is definitely going to be used for hanging on the tree or hanging wherever you want. You could even attach some suction cups and put this on a window. It would make a great sun catcher. But isn't it pretty, guys? It's so beautiful. Of course, we're going to be working on these now, so it'll look even more beautiful once we get done. So to work on these, you're going to need some pliers, and I like to use this kind of plier. It's a needle nose plier. These are by Xuron. And I'm also going to use some flat nose pliers. These are by Lindstrom. I've had these for years and I absolutely love them. But they're just flat nose pliers, as you can see. So let's go ahead and get started. Now earlier I had shown you how to twist at the base of each one of these sections. I didn't do it for all of them, okay? I only did it for the one, but you definitely want to do that first. So you're going to separate these 2 pieces like this and then give it a little twist at the base. And you only want 2 to 3 twists, not too many, okay? Put it down, bring the 8/0 seed bead to the middle, just like that, okay? And this part's going to be a little bit fiddly, so if you don't like fiddly things, you're not going to like this part. But basically, you're going to separate these 2 pieces of wire like this, and these 2 pieces of wire like this. And you want the seed bead somewhere in the middle, okay? So it looks kind of like this. So far, so good. And now using your pliers, you're going to put your finger on the seed bead and separate them a little bit more, okay? Same thing with this side. So let me turn it to this angle and separate these a little bit more. So this is what you should have. Now you're going to grab the bead and you're going to bring the wire down towards the center of your snowflake like this. Okay? It's a little tricky, but this is what you want. Okay? And now using your flat nose pliers, you're going to close up this loop a little bit. Kind of like that. Now you're going to grab the tip and start turning it. And you're going to continue to turn until you have just a little bit of the loop left at the very end. And you don't want to twist it too much because the wire will break if you over twist it, okay? So this is what you should have. I'm going to do the same thing on this side now, so let me turn it around so I can get a better angle. Once again, you want to squish the loop, make it a little bit narrower like this, grab the tip, and then start turning. And once you have that one done, this is what you should end up with, okay? Once again, grab the bead, bring it down. You might need to move the loops away from the other ones that you just twisted so they don't get all tangled up, but this is what you should have. Get your flat nose pliers, make those loops a little bit skinnier, and then grab the tip and start twisting it. Let me do the other side. I'm going to go ahead and squash that loop a little bit, make it thinner. Grab the tip and start twisting it. So this is what you should have. And let me adjust them a little bit. And then go ahead and move them up, adjust them however you want them, okay? And there you go. And that's what you should have. Isn't that cute? It's so pretty. I love how delicate that looks, and it fills in the gap between these two spikes. It's so pretty. So let me show you again with this one. Okay, once again, you want to separate the two pieces of wire and go ahead and twist it a couple of times. Like this. It's always best to put it down. Bring your seed bead down to the middle, and then go ahead and separate your wire. So this is what you should have. Use your pliers and separate them a little bit more if you can. Pick it up. Hold on to your bead, bring it down like this. Grab this one and start turning. If your loops are already narrow, you don't have to squash them, okay? I didn't have to squash this one because they were narrow enough, but sometimes you do have to squash them so they're not so fat. And it helps if you hold the whole thing with your index finger and your thumb to stabilize it as you twist. So there's one, and let me go ahead and do this one now. That looks good enough. Go ahead and finish this one here now. So grab the rondelle and push it down towards where the seed bead is, like this. Let me go ahead and squash this loop now because it's a little fat. You can also squish down those loops using your fingers. You don't have to use pliers, okay? Sometimes it's a little tricky with pliers. And you could even use your fingers to twist it, but it's so much easier to just use your pliers to do the twisting. The more twists that you add, the nicer it will look, okay? So if you're twisting it and it's not looking so good, just give it a few seconds, and I promise you, once you get a few twists in there, it'll look pretty good. But like I said, you don't want to do too many because it will break the wire. So let me go ahead and do this one now. That looks pretty good. And now I'm going to go ahead and manipulate these so that they're pointing away from the center. And there you go. Isn't that cute? I just love the way that looks. And it looks great on both sides, so it really doesn't matter which way you hang it on the tree, okay? So that's basically it, guys, okay? Just remember to give your wires some twists. I already did this one. This is the first one I did. So that's the first thing you do. Twist the base of each one and then separate the two pieces of wire, forming two circles on either side of that seed bead, and then bring it down and twist it, and that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest, and I'll meet you back. Well, I'm back. As you can see, I finished all 6 branches, I guess they're called. I don't know what they're called. I think they're called branches. But anyway, guys, isn't that gorgeous? Isn't this adorable? This is so pretty. Oh my gosh. There's the front. And it looks the same on both sides, which is really nice. It looks so detailed and difficult to make, but as you saw, it's pretty easy to make. And like I said before, you can use any kind of bead, okay? The sparklier the better. So if you can find crystals that have facets on them, that's better, because you want your snowflakes to be very sparkly. Okay, now you could do a Victorian type of snowflake and use pearls. I've done that before. And this makes a great gift because it's handmade. And I know that snowflakes are supposed to be perfect, perfectly formed, But this is a handmade snowflake, okay? So if yours isn't perfect, don't worry about it because nobody's going to notice, okay? And it just looked really, really pretty no matter what you do. Anything that repeats a pattern of pretty beads is going to look beautiful, okay? So just pick some beads and put them together and have faith in yourself, and I know you can do this, okay? It's pretty easy, guys. And as you can see, each one of these spokes has a loop, so you can definitely hang a charm or something. And one of them is definitely going to have either some ribbon or some wire to hang on the tree. So that's something to consider. If you're using ribbon, you'd want to get something that coordinates nicely with what you have here. Either something that's gold or a bluish colored ribbon would look nice, or even a ribbon that's this color, this white color. That would look really nice as well. So anyway, here's my snowflake, and now I'm going to wrap this one up and give it to my neighbor who's moving out, and this is going to be like a going away gift for her, and I'm pretty sure she's going to like it. It's so pretty. I really love it. I hope you love it as well, and I hope you make your own. It's not that difficult, guys, okay? It's pretty easy. And even though they say that no two crystals are alike, it's okay to have imperfections because after all, we're artisans and our art is not meant to be perfect. It's actually more beautiful when there are imperfections, but I gotta say this one looks pretty perfect to me. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Happy holidays if I don't see you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Bye.